I'm standing at the edge of the ballroom in my emerald silk dress, watching my husband Paul dance with his coworker again. A woman in pearls asks him if he's married. He laughs and says, "Not really." It doesn't count when she's not interesting. The laughter ripples through their circle. Someone catches my eye, realizes I heard everything, and the music suddenly feels too loud. I set down my champagne glass. My hands aren't shaking. I'm completely calm. That's when I know everything is about to change. The coat check attendant hands me my wrap, without meeting my eyes. I wonder if she heard too, if the whole room knows. The November wind cuts through Copley Square as I wait for my ride, and I'm grateful for the cold because it gives me something to feel besides the hollow ache spreading through my chest. The car arrives within minutes. The driver, a college student named Tyler, tries to make conversation but stops when he sees my face in the rearview mirror. I stare out the window as we wind through Boston's streets, past the brownstones and gas lamps that once felt like home. 7 years ago, I met Paul at a fundraiser for the Museum of Fine Arts. I was 28, working as an assistant curator, finally building the career I'd dreamed about since college. He was 32, a rising attorney at one of the city's most prestigious firms. He swept into my life like a hurricane, all confidence and charm. Within 6 months, we were engaged. Within a year, married and living in his family's 4-story brownstone on Mount Vernon Street in Beacon Hill. The house was stunning. Original hardwood floors, marble fireplaces in every room, a garden courtyard that bloomed with hydrangeas each spring. But it came with expectations. Paul's career was demanding. He needed a wife who could host dinner parties for senior partners, who could make conversation with clients, who understood that his work came first. So I gave notice at the museum. Just temporarily, I told myself. Just until we got settled. That was 6 years ago. I became everything he needed. I learned to cook elaborate meals, hired the right caterers, selected wines that impressed. I joined the right committees, volunteered at the right charities, wore the right clothes to the right events. I shaped myself into the perfect attorney's wife, smoothing down every rough edge until I fit seamlessly into his world. And somewhere along the way, I forgot who I'd been before. The car pulls up to our brownstone, our home. Except it's never felt like mine, not really. It's always been his family's house, his legacy, his investment. I thank Tyler and tip him extra with cash from my clutch. Inside, the silence is absolute. I walk through rooms that suddenly feel like a museum themselves, full of beautiful things that don't belong to me. The Steinway piano I never learned to play. The first edition books I'm afraid to touch. The antique Persian rugs I vacuum carefully each week. In our bedroom, I open the closet. My clothes hang in neat rows, organized by color and season. Designer labels Paul insisted I needed for firm events. I pull out 2 suitcases and start packing. Practical things first. Jeans, sweaters, comfortable shoes. My laptop, my phone charger, the jewelry my grandmother left me. Documents from the safe. My birth certificate, social security card, passport. I move through the house methodically, taking only what's truly mine. In Paul's study, I pause. The wedding photo on his desk shows us on the steps of the Park Street Church, both of us laughing, looking so happy. I was 29. He was 33. I believed we'd build a life together. I leave the photo where it is. In the kitchen, I write no note. What would I say? I heard you tonight. I heard you reduce our 7-year marriage to a punchline. I heard you tell strangers I wasn't interesting enough to count. Instead, I take off my wedding ring and engagement ring, carry them upstairs, and place them on his nightstand. The diamonds catch the light from the street lamp outside. 200 guests at our wedding. $30,000 for one day. And it all comes down to 2 rings on a nightstand. I call another car, load my suitcases, and book a room at a modest hotel near Harvard Square. The room is small, clean, anonymous. Perfect. I turn off my phone and sleep for the first time in months without listening for Paul's key in the lock, without worrying if I did enough, was enough, mattered enough. At 3 in the morning, I wake up and make the mistake of turning on my phone. 17 missed calls. 23 text messages. They start confused. Where are you? Did you go home? Then concerned. Diane, this isn't funny. People are asking questions. Then angry. You embarrassed me. How dare you leave like that? And finally, the one that makes my blood run cold. You're making a huge mistake. You have no idea what you're walking away from, or what I'm capable of. I sit on the edge of the hotel bed, my hands trembling now, and realize that leaving Paul won't be as simple as packing bags and walking out the door. I know him. I know how he operates in court, how he destroys opposing counsel, how he never loses because he plays every angle until his opponent has nothing left. And I just became his opponent. Morning arrives with gray light filtering through the hotel curtains. I check my bank account while drinking terrible coffee from the lobby. The screen loads slowly, and when it does, I stare at the numbers that don't make sense. 0. All 3 of our joint accounts show 0 balances. My credit cards, all linked to those accounts, are declined when I try to buy breakfast. I call the bank. The representative, a woman named Ashley with a sympathetic voice, explains that my husband froze the accounts at 6 this morning, as his legal right, since they're joint accounts. She's sorry, but there's nothing she can do. I have exactly $317 in cash in my wallet. That's it. Everything else, every penny I might have contributed over the years, is locked behind Paul's control. My hands shake as I dial my sister. Claire lives in Portland, Maine, 3 hours north. She's 4 years older than me, a high school English teacher, divorced with 2 teenage kids. She answers on the second ring. Diane? It's 7 in the morning. What's wrong? I tell her everything. The wedding, the comment, Paul's texts, the frozen accounts. She listens without interrupting, and when I finish, she's quiet for a long moment. That bastard, she finally says. I never liked him. Too smooth. Too perfect. I need help, Claire. I don't have access to any money. I'm wiring you $2,000 right now. Where are you? I give her the hotel information. Within an hour, the money arrives. It's not much, but it's something. Claire calls back and offers me her spare room in Portland, but I can't leave Boston, not yet. This is where my life is or was, and running away feels like admitting defeat. Instead, I find a women's resource center in Cambridge. A counselor named Beth, maybe 50 years old, with kind eyes and gray hair and a practical bun, sits with me in a small office and helps me understand my options. She recommends a divorce attorney, gives me pamphlets on financial abuse, explains that what Paul did is actually illegal but hard to prosecute. I make an appointment with the attorney, Patricia Hoffman, for the following week. Her consultation fee is $250. I pay it from Claire's money. Then I start apartment hunting. The studio I find in Alston is tiny, maybe 300 square feet, with a Murphy bed and a kitchenette that's more suggestion than reality. But it's mine. First month's rent plus security deposit takes most of Claire's money. I have enough left for groceries and a week of subway fare. I need a job. Immediately. I update my resume, trying to explain the 6-year gap since leaving the museum. I apply to galleries, museums, even high school art teacher positions. Nothing. Every rejection is polite but firm. My experience is outdated. My references are stale. The art world moved on without me. Finally, I take a job at a bookstore in Harvard Square. The owner, a man named George with wire-rimmed glasses and ink-stained fingers, doesn't ask too many questions. Minimum wage. 25 hours a week. It's humiliating work for someone with a master's degree in art history, but it pays. Meanwhile, Paul begins his campaign. He calls my parents in their retirement community in Florida. tells them I abandoned our marriage without explanation, that he's worried about my mental health, that I won't return his calls. My father, who always liked Paul, believes him. My mother is more cautious, but confused. He contacts our mutual friends, the couples we spent weekends with, the people from the firm, the neighbors in Beacon Hill. His version spreads like wildfire. Diane had some kind of breakdown. Just left one night without warning. He's devastated. He's trying to help her, but she won't let him. Some people reach out to me. A few. But when I try to explain what really happened, my story sounds thin compared to his. He spent the evening with a coworker? Lots of people socialize at weddings. He said I wasn't interesting? Maybe I misheard. Maybe I'm being oversensitive. Maybe the stress of the marriage finally got to me. I stopped trying to explain. My mother calls. Diane, honey, what's going on? Paul sounds so worried. Mom, he humiliated me in public. I can't stay with someone who treats me like that. But marriages have rough patches, sweetie. You don't just leave. You work through things. Talk to him. Go to counseling. I'm not going back. She sighs. I hope you know what you're doing. I'm not sure I do. The bookstore work is mind-numbing. I shelve books, work the register, smile at customers, pretend my master's degree in art history prepared me for alphabetizing romance novels. But it's honest work, and George is kind. He lets me take books home, never comments when I'm obviously fighting tears. 3 weeks after leaving Paul, I return to my studio apartment after a closing shift to find a notice taped to my door. Eviction. 30 days. I find the landlord, a nervous man named Barry who owns 3 buildings in the area. He won't meet my eyes. I'm sorry, Diane. I got a call. Someone claiming to be your husband. He said you were mentally unstable, potentially dangerous, that he was your medical proxy. Gave me all kinds of legal language. I can't risk it. I have other tenants to think about. That's not true. None of it. He's lying. Maybe so. But I can't take the chance. 30 days. I stand in the hallway outside my apartment, holding the eviction notice, and realize Paul is systematically destroying every foothold I try to establish. He's using his legal knowledge, his connections, his money, to make sure I can't build a life without him, and I have no idea how to fight back. Patricia Hoffman's office overlooks the Boston Common. She's maybe 60, with silver hair cut in a sharp bob and reading glasses on a chain around her neck. She reviews my case with the kind of clinical detachment I imagine serves her well in court. You have grounds for divorce, she says. Emotional abuse, financial control, abandonment of marital duties. Massachusetts is an equitable distribution state, so you're entitled to a fair share of marital assets. How long will it take? If he contests, 12 to 18 months. Maybe longer if he drags it out, and based on what you've told me, he will. My stomach drops. I don't have 18 months. I'm getting evicted. I have $300 in savings. I understand, but the law moves slowly. My retainer is $15,000. That covers initial filings and discovery. If it goes to trial, we're looking at another $20,000 to $30,000. I don't have $1,500, let alone $15,000. Patricia sees my face. There are legal aid options. I can refer you, but they have waiting lists and limited resources. In the meantime, document everything. Every text, every call, every interaction. Build your evidence file. I leave her office with a folder of information and a sinking feeling that the legal system isn't built for people like me. It's built for people like Paul, with money and lawyers and time. But I do have one advantage. I still have keys to the Beacon Hill house. 2 days later, at 1 p.m. on a Tuesday, I take the red line to Charles Street. My hands are sweating as I climb the steps to the brownstone. I unlock the door, half expecting an alarm, but there's nothing. Paul hasn't changed the locks. Why would he? He doesn't think I'm brave enough to come back. The house feels different in daylight, smaller somehow, less impressive. I move quickly through the first floor, the second floor, heading for Paul's third-floor study, his sanctuary. The room where he works late nights, where I was never allowed to disturb him. His desk is mahogany, antique, probably worth more than my car. I search the drawers, finding the usual things: pens, legal pads, business cards. But in the bottom drawer, locked with a key I find taped under the desk, I discover a folder of bank statements. Offshore accounts, 3 of them. The Cayman Islands, total balance, $1.2 million. Transfers going back 18 months, slowly siphoning money from our joint accounts into these hidden accounts. He's been planning this for over a year. I photograph everything with my phone. Then I open his laptop, left carelessly on the desk. He always leaves it open, never thinking anyone would dare look. His email is already logged in. I search for Elena's name. Elena Cortez, the co-worker from the wedding. The first email is from 2 years ago. Dinner was amazing. Can't stop thinking about you. Her response: same. When can I see you again? I scroll through months of messages, hotel reservations, weekend trips while I thought he was at conferences. Photos I don't want to see but force myself to look at anyway. Evidence. But it's the email from 6 months ago that changes everything. Paul to Elena. I need to accelerate the timeline. Moving money offshore, building the case for her abandonment. By the time I'm done, she'll have nothing. You and I can start fresh without any baggage. Elena's response: won't she fight back? Paul: with what? No money, no job, no credibility. I've been setting this up for months. The wedding thing will be perfect. Make sure you're there to witness her reaction. They planned it. The humiliation at the wedding wasn't spontaneous. It was calculated, designed to push me into leaving, so Paul could claim I abandoned our marriage. I'm photographing the emails when I hear the front door open. My heart stops. Footsteps on the stairs. Not one set, 2. I scramble to close the laptop, pocket my phone, but it's too late. Paul appears in the study doorway. Elena is behind him, looking uncomfortable. Paul's face goes through several expressions very quickly. Surprise, understanding, then cold fury. Diane: what are you doing in my home? Your home? This is our home. I still live here legally. No, you don't. You left. You abandoned this marriage, and now you're trespassing. He pulls out his phone. You broke into my office, accessed my private computer. That's illegal, Diane. Criminal. You've been stealing money, having an affair, planning to destroy me financially. Prove it. Oh, wait, you can't use any of that evidence because you obtained it illegally. Any lawyer will tell you that. He's smiling now. I'm calling the police. You just made the biggest mistake of your life. Elena shifts behind him. Paul, maybe we should just ask her to leave. No. She needs to learn that actions have consequences. I try to push past them, but Paul blocks the doorway. Within minutes, I hear sirens. 2 police officers arrive. Paul is calm, collected, the perfect victim. He shows them security footage from the front door. Me letting myself in with a key. She doesn't live here anymore, he explains. She left 3 weeks ago. Look, here's her new address on file with the post office. She broke in, accessed my confidential legal documents. I want her arrested. The officers look at me. One is older, maybe 50, with a wedding ring and tired eyes. Ma'am, do you live at this address? I did. We're married. I have a right to be here. Paul shows them bank statements listing my studio address. She established residency elsewhere. This is criminal trespass. The younger officer asks Paul, you want to press charges? Absolutely. They arrest me. Actually arrest me. Handcuffs, rights, read. The whole procedure. I spend the night in a cell at the Suffolk County Jail with 3 other women. One sobbing, one passed out, one staring at the wall. I don't sleep. At my arraignment the next morning, I stand before a judge who looks like she'd rather be anywhere else. The prosecutor requests bail at $5,000. I don't have it. But then Claire, who drove down at 3 in the morning when I called her from jail, stands up and says she'll wire the money. I'm released with a court date in 3 weeks. A temporary restraining order is filed against me. I cannot go within 200 feet of Paul or the Beacon Hill house. The judge grants it immediately. Outside the courthouse, Claire hugs me tight. We're going to fight this. But my phone, given back by the police with my personal effects, is now subject to a court order. Paul's attorney filed an emergency motion claiming I stole proprietary legal documents, trade secrets from his work. The photos I took are tied up in legal proceedings. My evidence is useless. I return to my studio apartment with 1 week left before eviction. George from the bookstore left a voicemail. I missed 3 shifts while in jail. He's sorry, but he can't keep me on. Tout unreliable. I have no job, no home, no money, no evidence, and a criminal record. Paul has won. The next 5 days pass in a blur of panic and bureaucracy. I apply for emergency assistance, for food stamps, for any program that might keep me housed and fed. The paperwork is endless. The waits are interminable. The caseworkers are overworked and overwhelmed. Claire wires me another $3,000, money I know she doesn't have to spare. Her own kids need college funds. Her teacher's salary barely covers their mortgage. But she sends it anyway because she's my sister, and she's all I have left. I use the money to hire a public defender for my criminal case. A harried woman named Jennifer Park who handles 90 cases at once. She spends 15 minutes with me, reviews the charges, and says bluntly, "Take the plea deal. Misdemeanor trespass, probation, no jail time. Fighting this will cost money you don't have and time that works against you." But I didn't do anything wrong. That's my house too. Not legally. You established residency elsewhere. A judge will see this as exactly what your husband claims. Illegal entry with intent to steal documents. Take the plea. I take the plea. 18 months probation. Court costs and fees totaling $1,200 I don't have. A criminal record that will follow me for the rest of my life. Paul's attorney files divorce papers the same week. The petition claims I abandoned our marriage without cause, that I'm mentally unstable, as evidenced by my recent arrest, that I'm not entitled to any marital assets because I voluntarily left and then committed crimes against him. He's requesting full ownership of the house, the cars, the savings accounts. He's offering me nothing. His attorney also files a defamation lawsuit against me for $25,000, claiming I spread false allegations about his affair and financial misconduct. The lawsuit specifically mentions conversations I had with mutual friends, my parents, Claire. He's documented everything. Some of those friends are now deposed as witnesses. They testify under oath that Paul seemed like a loving husband, that they never saw him mistreat me, that I seemed increasingly erratic and withdrawn in the months before I left. One couple, Brandon and Hope, who I thought were my friends, tell the deposing attorney that I once seemed unstable at a dinner party, that I drank too much wine and made strange comments. I wasn't unstable. I was sad. And I had 2 glasses of wine. But under oath, in a deposition transcript, it becomes evidence of my deteriorating mental state. My eviction date arrives. I pack what little I have into my car, a 10-year-old Honda Civic with 130,000 miles on it. I spend the first night parked in a rest stop on Route 2, the second night in a Target parking lot, the third night behind a closed shopping center in Watertown. I use a 24-hour gym membership to shower and change clothes. I keep my nicer outfits in the trunk, ready for job interviews that never materialize. I eat peanut butter sandwiches and apples. I spend hours in the public library, applying for jobs, researching legal options, trying to figure out how my life fell apart so completely. Finally, I swallow my pride and call Joan Prescott, my mother's college roommate, who lives in Somerville. She's 73, a retired librarian, widowed for a decade. I haven't spoken to her in 2 years, but she remembers me. Diane? Honey, I heard about you and Paul. Your mother was so worried before she passed. Come stay with me. I have a spare room. Mom's not passed. She's fine. She lives in Florida with Dad. There's a long pause. Diane, your mother had a stroke 3 weeks ago. She's at Maine Medical Center in Portland. Didn't Claire tell you? The world tilts. What? Oh, honey, I thought you knew. She's been in intensive care. It's not looking good. I hang up and call Claire immediately. She answers, her voice thick. I've been trying to reach you. Your phone keeps going to voicemail. I didn't get any calls. When did this happen? 18 days ago. Diane, where have you been? I've left you dozens of messages. I check my phone. Nothing. Then I realize Paul had access to our phone plan. He blocked Claire's number, blocked calls from Maine area codes. I never got any of it. How bad is it? I ask. Claire starts crying. She's dying. Maybe days. She keeps asking for you. Can you come? I have $43 in my bank account. A bus ticket to Portland costs $62. I don't have it. I'll borrow money from Joan. I'll be there tomorrow. Joan lends me $500. She's suspicious of why I need it, but kind enough not to ask too many questions. I take the Greyhound from South Station at 7 in the morning, arriving in Portland 5 hours later. Claire picks me up at the station, and we drive straight to Maine Medical Center. My mother looks so small in the hospital bed. She's 67, but she looks 90. Tubes and wires connect her to machines that beep softly. Her eyes are closed, her breathing is shallow. I take her hand. It's cold. Mom? It's Diane. I'm here. Her eyes flutter, but don't open. Claire says, she hasn't been conscious since yesterday morning. The doctors say it could be any time. I sit with her for 16 hours straight. Claire goes home to her kids, promising to return in the morning. I hold my mother's hand, talk to her, tell her I'm sorry I wasn't here sooner, that I love her, that I'll be okay even though I'm not sure that's true. She dies at 4:17 in the morning. One moment she's breathing, and the next she's not. A nurse checks her pulse, looks at me with sad eyes, and says gently, I'm so sorry for your loss. I've lost everything. My marriage, my home, my job, my freedom, my mother. I sit in the hospital room as the sun rises over Portland, and I don't cry. I don't feel anything at all. I'm completely numb. The funeral is 3 days later. Small service, just family, and a few of my mother's friends. My father is barely functional, his grief so heavy he can barely stand. Claire handles all the arrangements while managing her own pain. And then Paul shows up. He arrives in a black suit, somber expression, playing the role of concerned son-in-law. He brings Elena as his, quote, colleague to provide support. People don't know who she is. They see an attractive woman, assume she's just a work friend helping Paul through a difficult time. My Aunt Ruth, my mother's sister, actually hugs Paul. Thank you for coming. This must be so hard for you too, with everything happening with Diane. Paul hugs her back. I just want to be here for the family. Despite everything, I loved Catherine. She was a wonderful woman. I watch this performance from across the room and feel rage, so pure it makes my vision blur. He's using my mother's funeral to maintain his image, to show everyone what a good man he is, how gracious, how forgiving. After the service, Aunt Ruth pulls me aside. Diane, I'm disappointed in you. That man came to your mother's funeral despite how you've treated him. The least you could do is be civil. Aunt Ruth, you don't understand what he did. I understand you left a good marriage and broke your mother's heart. She died worried about you, wondering where you went wrong as a parent. I hope you can live with that. Her words are knives. She walks away. leaving me standing alone in the church fellowship hall. I returned to Boston the next day. Joan has kept her offer open. I move into her spare room, a small space with a twin bed and a window overlooking her garden. I take a job as a night shift cleaner at an office building in Cambridge. $7 an hour, under the table, no questions asked. I clean bathrooms and vacuum conference rooms from 11 at night to 6 in the morning. It's not what I imagined when I earned my master's degree. But it pays. Patricia Hoffman's office sends me a letter officially withdrawing from my case due to non-payment. Paul's divorce petition moves forward unopposed. A court date is set for preliminary hearings. I'll have to represent myself. I receive notice that a judgment has been entered against me for $60,000. Paul's attorney successfully argued that my defamation, trespass, and theft of documents caused their client financial and emotional damages. I now owe more money than I've earned in my entire life. My credit score plummets. My bank account is garnished. The $500 I'd saved from cleaning work is seized to pay toward the judgment. Joan tells me gently that her daughter Melissa is moving back home. Her marriage ended, and she needs a place to stay with her 2 kids. Joan's spare room will be needed by the end of the week. I'm about to be homeless again. I'm sitting on a bench outside Joan's house, trying to figure out where I can park my car to sleep safely, when my phone rings. Unknown number. I almost don't answer, but something makes me pick up. Diane? A woman's voice. Professional. Cautious. My name is Samantha Reed. I used to work at Paul's firm. I know what he did to you. I know what he's done to others. We need to talk. I meet Samantha at a diner in Watertown 2 days later. She's early 40s, blonde hair pulled back in a professional ponytail, wearing jeans and a sweater that suggests she's been out of corporate law for a while. Her eyes are sharp, assessing, but not unkind. "Thank you for meeting me," she says as I slide into the booth. "I know you have no reason to trust anyone right now. Then why should I trust you?" She pulls out a folder, slides it across the table. Inside are documents, emails, depositions, settlement agreements, all marked confidential, all about Paul. I was a paralegal at Morrison, Keller, and Bach for 7 years, Paul's firm. 2 years ago, he sexually harassed me, repeatedly. When I reported it to HR, they offered me 6 months severance and an NDA if I left quietly. When I refused and threatened to sue, they destroyed my career, made it impossible for me to work anywhere in Boston legal circles, spread rumors that I was incompetent, unstable, stealing from clients. Did you sign the NDA? Yes, because I had a mortgage and a daughter in high school, and they threatened to drag me through years of litigation I couldn't afford. But I kept copies of everything, and I've been waiting for the right moment to use them. I look through the folder. Emails from Paul describing me in crude terms. Messages to colleagues about his plans to isolate me financially. Documentation of affairs with 3 different coworkers over the years, including Elena. Proof that the firm knew about his behavior and protected him because he brought in millions in billable hours. "Why are you showing me this?" I ask. "Because you're not the first woman he's destroyed, and you won't be the last unless someone stops him." His first wife, Jennifer Hartwell, went through something similar 15 years ago. He used the same playbook: isolate, humiliate, destroy financially, discredit legally. She ended up losing everything, moved to New Mexico to start over. "How do you know about her?" "I found her. It took months, but I tracked her down. She's willing to talk if anyone's willing to listen. There are 3 other women from the firm with similar stories. We've been comparing notes for a year, building a case, waiting for the right opportunity." "What kind of opportunity?" Samantha signals to someone near the door. A woman in her 50s approaches our booth. Professional suit, recorder in hand, press credentials hanging from her neck. "Diane, this is Grace Torres. She's an investigative journalist with the Globe. She's been researching corruption and abuse at major Boston law firms for 18 months. Your case could be the key that opens everything. Grace sits down, extends her hand. I've heard a lot about you. I'm sorry for what you've been through. I'd like to help. We talk for 2 hours. Grace explains she's been trying to build a story about systemic abuse at Paul's firm, but she needs first-hand accounts, documentation, multiple sources to make it bulletproof. Samantha has provided a lot, but one fired paralegal with an axe to grind isn't enough. Jennifer's story is too old. But my case is current, well documented through court records, and involves clear financial crimes that might interest prosecutors. If we go forward with this, Grace says carefully, it's going to get ugly. Paul will fight back hard. The firm has deep pockets and will throw everything at discrediting all of us. You could end up with more legal problems, more debt, more public scrutiny. Are you willing to take that risk? I think about my mother's funeral. Paul standing there with Elena, playing the grieving son-in-law. I think about sleeping in my car, cleaning toilets at 3 a.m, having my entire life reduced to 2 suitcases and $43 in a bank account I can't even access. What do I have left to lose? I ask. Samantha smiles grimly. That's what I was hoping you'd say. Because we have 2 weeks to pull this together before the Globe moves on to other stories. We need to coordinate with Jennifer, depose the other women, gather all documentation, and build an airtight narrative. Grace needs to verify everything independently. It's going to be intensive. We exchange contact information. Samantha connects me with a legal aid attorney named Thomas Bryant, who specializes in employment law and abuse cases. He agrees to review everything and potentially represent the women as a group pro bono if we can build a strong enough case. For the first time in months, I feel something like hope. But then Paul finds out. I don't know how. Maybe someone at the diner recognized me. Maybe he has people watching. Maybe he's just that good at anticipating threats. 2 days after my meeting with Samantha and Grace, I receive a cease and desist letter. The letter, from Paul's attorney, threatens a lawsuit for conspiracy to defame, tortious interference with business relationships, and violation of confidentiality agreements. It specifically names Samantha for violating her NDA. It names Grace for pursuing a story based on illegally obtained information. It threatens criminal charges, civil penalties, professional sanctions. Samantha calls me, panicked. They're going after my NDA violation. I could owe the firm $300,000 in penalties. I could lose my house. Grace's editor at the Globe calls her into a meeting. The firm's attorneys contacted the paper's legal department, threatened a major lawsuit if the story runs. They're claiming all the sources are tainted, that the information was obtained through illegal means, that it's all a coordinated attack by disgruntled former employees and a scorned ex-wife. The editor puts the story on indefinite hold. Thomas, the legal aid attorney, calls me. I can't represent you. The firm threatened to file bar complaints against me for soliciting clients through improper means. I'm sorry. I can't risk my license. Everything falls apart in 72 hours. Joan gently reminds me that Melissa arrives in 3 days. I need to be out. I pack my car again, prepare for another stretch of homelessness, and wonder if I should just give up, move somewhere far away, change my name, start completely over where Paul can't reach me. I'm sitting in my car outside a church in Somerville, not because I'm religious, but because the parking lot is well lit and feels safer than most places, when my phone buzzes with an email. The subject line reads, From Jennifer Hartwell. I open it with shaking hands. Diane, Grace Torres forwarded me your information. I'm Paul's first wife. I tried to fight him alone 15 years ago and lost everything. My career, my savings, my reputation, my sanity. It took me a decade to rebuild my life. When I heard he was doing it again, to you, I felt sick. I've been following your case through Samantha. I kept evidence too. Financial records, emails, documents showing his pattern of abuse. I've been holding on to them for 15 years, waiting for the right moment. If you're willing to fight, I'll testify. I'll put my name on the record. Let's destroy his career the way he destroyed our lives. I read the email 3 times. Then I call Samantha. Jennifer's in, I say. I'm in. We're doing this. I don't care what it costs. I'm done running. Samantha is quiet for a moment. Grace's story is on hold. Thomas won't represent us. We're going to have to do this differently. Then we figure out how. But we're doing it. Okay, Samantha says. Let me make some calls. Don't give up yet. I sleep in my car that night. The temperature drops into the 30s. I use every blanket I own and still shiver. But I sleep better than I have in weeks, because for the first time since the wedding, I'm not the only one fighting. Samantha calls the next morning while I'm washing my face in a gas station bathroom. I found someone, an attorney named Lisa Chen. She does class action work, specializes in employment discrimination and abuse cases. She's interested. I thought Thomas couldn't help us. He can't, officially, but he connected us with Lisa off the record. She wants to meet. Today. Can you make it to her office in Cambridge by 2? I look at myself in the gas station mirror. Unwashed hair, rumpled clothes, dark circles under my eyes. I look homeless because I am homeless. But I say yes. Lisa Chen's office is small but professional, tucked above a coffee shop near Central Square. She's 30-something, wearing a crisp suit, her dark hair in a neat bun. She shakes my hand firmly and offers me tea. I've reviewed the preliminary information Samantha sent, she says. What Paul did to you, to Jennifer, to Samantha and the others, it fits a pattern. That pattern is actionable. But I need you to understand what you're getting into. I'm already in it. It can't get worse. Lisa raises an eyebrow. It can always get worse. Paul's firm has unlimited resources. They'll depose you for days. They'll dig into every aspect of your life. They'll try to paint you as vindictive, unstable, greedy. Every embarrassing moment, every mistake you've ever made, will become public record. Can you handle that? I think about cleaning toilets at 3 in the morning, about sleeping in my car, about my mother dying while I sat in jail for trespassing in my own home. Yes, I say, I can handle it. Then here's what we do. We file a class action lawsuit. You, Jennifer, Samantha, and the 3 other women as plaintiffs. We sue Paul individually for fraud, financial abuse, intentional infliction of emotional distress. We sue the firm for enabling his behavior, creating a hostile work environment, and retaliating against women who complained. We also contact the Massachusetts Attorney General's office about the offshore accounts and potential fraud. I don't have money for attorneys. I work on contingency for cases like this. If we win, I take a percentage of the settlement. If we lose, you pay nothing. But I only take cases I think we can win, and this one, we can win. The evidence is strong, the pattern is clear, and Paul made one critical mistake. He documented everything. His arrogance will be his downfall. Over the next week, Lisa brings together all the plaintiffs. I meet Jennifer for the first time in a conference room. She's 52 now, a social worker in Albuquerque, remarried with 2 grown children. When she sees me, she hugs me tight. I'm so sorry, she whispers. I should have warned people about him. I should have done something. You survived, I say. That's enough. The other 3 women are younger. Amanda, who worked at the firm 5 years ago. Rachel, who left 3 years ago. Taylor, who quit 6 months ago. All have similar stories. All signed NDAs. All kept evidence anyway. Lisa files the lawsuit on a Monday morning. Simultaneously, Grace Torres's story publishes in the Boston Globe. The legal pressure from Paul's firm made the Globe cautious, but Grace found another angle. She framed it as an investigation into widespread abuse at elite Boston law firms, using Paul's case as the primary example. but including data from other firms. It's bulletproof journalism, exhaustively fact-checked, with multiple sources and documentation. The story goes viral immediately. By noon, it's trending on social media. By evening, national news outlets are picking it up. The Globe's website crashes from traffic. Paul's firm issues a statement denying everything, calling it a coordinated attack by disgruntled former employees. But the damage is done. By Tuesday morning, 3 more women contact Lisa with stories about Paul. By Wednesday, the Massachusetts Attorney General announces an investigation into financial fraud. By Thursday, the firm suspends Paul pending an internal review. Elena gives an interview to a rival newspaper, claiming she had no idea about Paul's history, that she was manipulated too, that she's devastated to learn the truth. She distances herself completely, saves her own career by throwing him under the bus. I watch it all unfold from a Starbucks where I've been living between shifts, using their Wi-Fi to follow the news. People comment on the articles. Some support us. Some call us liars, gold diggers, bitter ex-wives. I stop reading the comments. Lisa calls on Friday. The firm wants to settle. They're offering $750,000 split between all 6 plaintiffs. You'd get about $125,000 after legal fees and taxes. What about Paul? What happens to him? He'll likely be disbarred. The criminal investigation is separate, but with the offshore accounts exposed, he's looking at serious charges, fraud, tax evasion, potentially more. What about the divorce? With his assets frozen and his income gone, we renegotiate. You'll get your fair share of marital property. The Beacon Hill house will have to be sold, but you'll get half the proceeds. It's not enough. It will never be enough for what he took from me. But it's something. I need to think about it, I say. That night, I drive to Beacon Hill. I park across the street from the brownstone, looking up at the windows. Lights are on in the 3rd-floor study. Paul's silhouette moves past the window. I wonder what he's thinking, if he ever expected his carefully constructed life to collapse this spectacularly. My phone rings. Claire. I saw the news, she says. How are you? Tired. They offered a settlement. Are you going to take it? I watch Paul's shadow move behind the curtains. I think so. It's not about the money anymore. It's about making sure he can't do this to anyone else. Mom would be proud of you, Claire says softly. I start crying then, finally, for the first time since the funeral. Big, ugly sobs that I've been holding back for months. Claire stays on the line, not saying anything, just breathing with me. When I'm done, she says, come to Portland. Stay with us for a while. Rest. Figure out what comes next. I will, I promise. Soon. I drive away from Beacon Hill for the last time. I don't look back. The settlement takes 6 weeks to finalize. The firm pays out $750,000 to the 6 plaintiffs. After Lisa's contingency fee and taxes, I receive $93,000. It's more money than I've ever had in my life. Jennifer gets a similar amount. Samantha, whose NDA violation penalties are waived as part of the settlement, gets hers. The 3 younger women split the rest. The firm also agrees to implement new policies, mandatory training, and an independent review process for harassment complaints. Paul is disbarred by the Massachusetts Board of Bar Overseers after a disciplinary hearing. The criminal investigation results in charges for fraud, tax evasion, and falsifying financial documents. He pleads guilty to reduced charges and receives 3 years in prison and 5 years probation. His offshore accounts are seized. The Beacon Hill house is sold to pay restitution and legal fees. I receive my portion of the house sale, $415,000. Combined with the settlement, I have over $500,000. For the first time in my adult life, I'm financially secure. But more than that, I'm free. I moved to Portland to be near Claire and my father. I rent a small apartment in the West End with a view of Casco Bay. I spend 3 months doing nothing but sleeping, reading, walking along the waterfront, and going to therapy twice a week with a counselor named Margaret who specializes in trauma recovery. Margaret helps me understand that what I experienced was systematic abuse. That the humiliation at the wedding was just the visible moment when everything broke open, but the abuse had been happening for years in quieter ways. The isolation, the control, the slow erasure of my identity. You didn't lose yourself, Margaret tells me. You protected yourself by becoming small and quiet. That's survival. But now you get to become big and loud again. I start painting. I haven't painted since college, but I buy canvases and acrylics and spend hours in my apartment creating abstract pieces that don't have to mean anything except that they're mine. I volunteer at a women's shelter in Portland, helping other women navigate the legal and financial systems after leaving abusive relationships. I use my experience to guide them, to show them they're not alone, that survival is possible. After 6 months, I apply to curating positions again. This time, my resume includes my settlement, my advocacy work, and a story that demonstrates resilience. The Portland Museum of Art hires me as an assistant curator, focusing on contemporary women artists. I'm 41 years old, starting over, and it feels like beginning my life for the first time. A year after the settlement, Grace Torres publishes a follow-up article about the women involved in the lawsuit. She interviews each of us about where we are now. Jennifer is thriving in New Mexico, speaking at conferences about financial abuse. Samantha opened a consulting firm, helping companies develop better harassment policies. The 3 younger women have all found success in various fields. And me? Grace interviews me at the museum, where I'm curating an exhibition on resilience in women's art. What would you say to women in similar situations? Grace asks. I think carefully before answering. I'd say that leaving is hard. Fighting back is harder. But staying small for someone who will never see your worth is the hardest of all. There's no shame in protecting yourself however you need to. But when you're ready, when you have even one ally, even one person who believes you, that's when you fight. Not because you'll definitely win, but because you deserve to try. The article publishes on a Sunday. By Monday, I've received 47 emails from women sharing their stories, asking for advice, thanking me for speaking out. I answer every single one. 2 years after the wedding, I attend a fundraiser for the museum. It's at a hotel downtown, a fancy ballroom with chandeliers and champagne. I'm wearing a red dress I chose myself, my hair styled the way I like it, my confidence earned through 2 years of hard work and healing. I'm there as the museum's representative, networking with donors, discussing our upcoming exhibitions. I've just finished giving a short speech about the power of art to transform pain into beauty. As I step off the small stage, I see him. Paul is across the room. He's working at a small firm now, doing contract work, trying to rebuild some semblance of a career. He's aged badly. His hair is grayer, his face harder, his expensive suit not quite fitting right anymore. He sees me. For a moment, we just look at each other across the crowded room. Then he starts walking toward me. My first instinct is to leave, but I stand my ground. He stops a few feet away, maintaining the distance required by the long expired restraining order we both remember. Diane, he says. His voice is smaller than I remember. You look well. I am well. I wanted to apologize. For everything. I was wrong. I know that now. I study his face, looking for sincerity. But I'm not sure it matters anymore. Thank you for saying that. Do you think we could talk sometime? Maybe get coffee? I almost laugh. After everything, he still thinks there's a path back. A conversation that could fix what he broke. No, Paul. We have nothing to talk about. I'm different now. Prison changed me. I've been in therapy. I'm glad you're getting help. But that's not my concern anymore. You're really not going to give me a chance? I meet his eyes directly. You're right that we should talk. So let me say this clearly. I spent 7 years trying to be interesting enough for you, trying to be the right kind of wife, the perfect accessory to your perfect life. I thought if I just tried harder, loved better, became smaller, you'd finally see my worth. But you couldn't see it because you were never looking. And the night you told a room full of strangers I didn't count, something broke free inside me. I realized I'd been asking the wrong question. It wasn't whether I was interesting enough for you. It was whether you were worth my interest. And Paul, you're not. He flinches. That's cruel. No, that's honest. I hope you build a good life. I hope you learn to treat people better. But I'm not interested in watching you do it. I walk away. He doesn't follow. A woman approaches me a few minutes later. She's younger, maybe early 30s, wearing an elegant navy suit. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I just wanted to say I heard your speech. And I saw you talking to that man. I don't know your story, but whatever you went through to get here, thank you for sharing it. What's your name? I ask. Bethany. I work in fundraising. We talk for 20 minutes. She tells me about leaving a difficult marriage last year, about rebuilding her career, about the fear and hope that come with starting over. I give her my card and tell her to call if she ever needs someone who understands. As the evening winds down, I stand by the windows overlooking Portland's waterfront. The harbor lights reflect on the dark water. I think about the woman who stood frozen in a Boston ballroom 2 years ago, humiliated and afraid. She's still part of me, but she's not all of me anymore. I pulled out my phone and recorded a message because I wanted to share something important with all of you. The most interesting thing I ever did wasn't earning a master's degree or curating exhibitions or winning a lawsuit. It was choosing myself when everyone told me to stay small. It was fighting back when fighting seemed impossible. It was recognizing that my worth was never dependent on someone else's ability to see it. I spent years thinking I needed to be more charming, more accomplished, more interesting, more everything. But the truth is, I was always enough. I just needed to believe it. To anyone listening who's in a situation where someone makes you feel small, where you're told you don't count, where your worth is questioned every day, believe me when I say you are more than enough. Your value isn't determined by someone else's capacity to appreciate it. And the moment you truly understand that, everything changes. Walking away from that wedding was terrifying. Fighting back against someone with more money, more power, and more resources seemed impossible. There were so many moments when I wanted to give up, when staying invisible seemed safer than standing up. But I learned something crucial through this experience. We're stronger than we think we are, especially when we stop fighting alone. Every woman who came forward, every person who believed my story, every ally who stood beside me, they showed me that courage is contagious. One person's bravery gives others permission to be brave too. Now I get to wake up every morning in a life I built myself. I choose what I wear, where I go, how I spend my time. I have work that fulfills me, friends who truly see me, and peace that comes from knowing I stood up for myself and won, not just in court, not just financially, but in the most important way, I won back my sense of self. So here's my question for all of you. Have you ever had to choose between staying small to keep the peace and standing up for yourself even when it was terrifying? What gave you the courage to choose yourself? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below, because every story of courage helps someone else find their own strength. If this story resonated with you, please hit the like button. Subscribe to hear more stories about resilience, transformation, and choosing yourself. And share this with someone who might need to hear it today, someone who's questioning their worth, or considering whether they have the strength to walk away from a situation that diminishes them. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for being here, for believing in the power of speaking truth, and for creating a community where we can share these experiences without shame. I hope my story reminds you that your worth is inherent, not earned. That interesting is what you decide it means. And that the most courageous thing you can do is become the fullest version of yourself, even when, especially when, someone tells you you're not enough. To everyone fighting their own battles, seen or unseen, I see you. You matter. You count. And you are so much more interesting than anyone who tries to dim your light could ever understand. Thank you for being here. I wish you courage, peace, and the unshakable knowledge of your own worth.